Regular visitors to Norway will be familiar with the Norwegian coastal voyage. Although Hurtigruten is the most famous name, they are not the only company running ships on the route. Havila Voyages recently entered the game, and they have some impressive brand new ships. In this video, I'll take you on board the Havila Capella to help you decide if a Havila voyage is right for you. All 4 ships in the Havila fleet are identical, so no matter which ship you're considering, keep watching for answers to all your questions. First of all, a quick word about the coastal voyage. The famous 11-night coastal cruise exists because of the need for a cargo and passenger ferry service for 34 ports between Bergen and Kirkenes. These range from cities to tiny communities which rely on the coastal ferry. On top of that local service, the ferries market a cruise-like experience for those wanting to get up close to the scenic Norwegian coastline in the best possible way. For many years, Hurtigruten was the only operator on the route, but no longer. Havila is here, and when fully operational, their new ships will run 4 of the 11 departures on the coastal route. They have already made a splash with their brand new ships, which are some of the most environmentally friendly vessels of their size anywhere in the world, running on LNG and capable of sailing on battery power for up to 4 hours. I boarded in the beautiful city of Ålesund, which at this time of year is the port call with the longest duration on the coastal route. Unlike in Bergen at the start of the voyage, in Ålesund and other stops you're free to board at any time when the ship is in dock. I chose to board early in order to film when the ship was quiet. That being said, it was only at about 30% capacity during my trip, so there was plenty of space. Now come on board with me and I'll show you around. Passengers board on deck 4 and enter this reception area where you immediately notice some of the differences from the older Hurtigruten ships. There is a glass elevator that rises through this impressive atrium that you don't often see on relatively small ships. When you travel with Havila, you can do anything from the full 11-night voyage down to shorter trips lasting a night or 2, or even hopping between ports just an hour or 2 apart. For local passengers, there is a luggage room, and you're able to use the lounges and cafe throughout the ship. For slightly longer trips, you're also able to reserve a reclining seat in this port-to-port lounge for a small additional fee. If you're travelling overnight though, you'll probably need to book a cabin. There are 179 cabins on board for use by round-trip cruise passengers and those on shorter trips. As I was making an overnight journey from Ålesund to Trondheim, I booked the smallest, cheapest cabin on the ship, an interior cabin. These cabins sleep 2 with 1 single bed and another that you can pull down from the wall. The bed was comfortable and I had a really good night's sleep, which I can't always say when I'm on a ship. I did notice a little movement on the ship as we sailed into the open sea during the night, but in terms of mechanical sounds, it was relatively quiet. There were some nice touches in the cabin, including plenty of power, both traditional sockets and USB-A outlets, and this nice mechanism on the wardrobe door to stop it banging should we encounter rough seas. The bathroom was small, but it was clean, and the shower was fantastic. There's hair and body wash, and liquid soap included in all cabins. For one night, an interior cabin was absolutely fine, and to be honest, a bit of a bargain in what is usually a very expensive country to get around. But I would want a bit more space if I was doing a longer trip, and especially if I was on the full round-trip cruise. On the Havila ships, all the other cabins that are not interior cabins are a bit more spacious than on the Hurtigruten ships. My thanks to the super friendly people on reception for showing me some of these cabins so I could show them to you. Unfortunately, all the suites were booked, so I wasn't able to see one of those, but I still got to see 3 other grades of cabin, which gave me a good feel for what's available. As you can see, Havila's cabins are about as close as you're going to get to cruise ship cabin standard without being on a fully fledged cruise ship. My personal favourite cabin grade was this Panoramic Superior. There are only a couple of these cabins on each ship, but I could see me spending a lot of time in these chairs just watching the world go by if I'd booked into one of these. But now back to the tour of the ship. The rest of decks 4 and 5 are just cabins, so it's on to deck 6, where most of the ship's facilities are. Every available window space has comfortable chairs nearby, enabling guests to make the most of the scenery. The Havila Cafe is open till 10 PM and serves snacks, drinks including beers, and 2 hot meals that change daily. This cafe is designed mainly to serve local passengers, although round-trip cruise passengers can of course use this area too. Through the cafe and past this relaxed seating area is the ship's main restaurant called Havrand. This large space at the aft of Deck 6 is where round-trip passengers will enjoy breakfast, lunch and dinner, all served a la carte. That's one of the biggest differences between Havila and Hurtigruten. The design of this spacious restaurant means there is plenty of window seats and good views from everywhere else. Speaking of design, this modern Nordic style is used throughout the ship. It makes for a very different look than some of the older ships used on the coastal route. If you're a fan of Scandinavian design, Havila is a good choice for you. Local passengers are able to pay extra to have lunch in the restaurant, and the concept is an interesting one. Rather than a buffet, there is a menu of small plates, and you're free to choose as many as you want. Havila recommends you choose 3, and so that's exactly what I did, although they did also encourage me to try the small dessert, not that I needed that much encouragement if I'm honest. I love this concept of dining, and Havila claims it substantially reduces food waste compared to a buffet. Breakfast, which is included for anyone booking a cabin, works in exactly the same way. There is a fine dining restaurant on Deck 6 called Hurtigruten, which comes at an extra charge. Towards the front of the ship, there's a small conference room used for presentations, and an excursion desk used to book in-port trips. Also located on this deck is the ship's shop. This sells good quality outdoor clothing from leading Norwegian brands, woolen clothing, hats, gloves and slippers, Havila branded items, postcards, mugs, books, gifts, and personal items and toiletries that you may have forgotten to bring along on your trip. The forward part of Deck 6 is taken up by the bow lounge, which I found one of the quietest parts of the ship. That's likely because there were fewer windows here. Despite this, I found my own favourite cosy spot on the ship, where I curled up with my Kindle and coffee for an hour in the evening, narrowly avoiding falling asleep. There's also jigsaws and a small area for children here. Deck 7 is mostly cabins, but there was a small gym here too, split into 2 rooms, one with cardio equipment and a view, and one for strength training. At the back of Deck 7 was this small observation area, and this brings me nicely on to the fantastic outside spaces on the Havila Capella. Deck 7 also has walkways on both sides. This is where a couple of the lifeboats are. This is a great space to quickly run outside if you're relaxing in the lounge down on Deck 6 and you want to take a closer look at something, or you want to grab a quick photo of the scenery. From here, you can take the stairs up to Deck 8. As you can see, Deck 8 is mostly an outdoor deck. This is perfect for scenic cruising, watching the arrivals and departures into many of the ports along the route, catching some sun if you're lucky, or stargazing and hunting for the northern lights in the darkness of the winter. Just inside here, there's a sauna, which is open in the mornings and evenings, while back outside there is this outdoor bar that is open for various events that are held on the ship. There are also 2 hot tubs here, which, despite the quiet nature of this trip, were rarely empty. I saw people in at least one of these hot tubs every other time I came past. The outdoor space continues up on Deck 9, known as the Promenade Deck, which, as the name implies, is mainly an outdoor deck. This walkway at the aft of the ship is probably the best place for landscape photography, although it is a touch windy here. But as long as you wrap up warm, you'll get some great shots from here, including of the wake and the flag of Norway. The inside of Deck 9 is where you'll find the observation lounge at the front of the ship, known as Havblikk. As with the restaurant, this is a large, light and airy space that is designed to provide as many window seats as possible, but you'll get a good view from wherever you choose to sit here thanks to the slightly raised area in the middle, another really nice design touch. I filmed most of this video during a long port call, so the ship was mostly empty, but when we were sailing, this was the busiest lounge, especially during the evening or during an especially scenic part of the journey. There's a full bar available here with wines, beers, spirits and cocktails, although just remember that prices are Norwegian prices. The outdoor space on deck 9 continues with this wraparound walkway that goes all the way around the outside of the observation lounge at the front of the ship. You can see the sea underneath this part of the walkway though, so it's not for those who get a little nervous about these things. However, I think the view from up here is well worth it. It's also a good way to get in some steps while you're on board, especially if you're taking the full voyage. I particularly enjoyed this spot when we sailed away from Ålesund, although I was conscious about not standing right in front of someone who had a window seat inside the observation lounge. I was on the Havila Capella for just 15 hours, but I hope this video gives you a little insight into what it would be like to do the full coastal voyage. My verdict: the next time I take the coastal voyage, I will absolutely pick Havila if the timetable works for me. Thanks for watching.